Yesterday, Elon Musk made arguably the most bullish statement he's ever made about Tesla, saying that the brutal reality of the situation will hit like a tsunami towards the end of next year. We'll explore what to expect in the event that everything goes according to plan. Now at $1.34 trillion, Tesla's market cap is eighth largest in the world, still trailing companies like Apple, NVIDIA, Microsoft, and Alphabet. But why has Tesla grown so quickly relative to the others, and what might it take for it to become the largest company? Today's guest, Yashu Sharma, believes that there is a direct relationship with how many GPUs Tesla is buying as an AI play for Wall Street. All of the top market cap companies today are the only ones who are buying these AI clusters hand over fist. Yashu's YouTube channel is called Hit That Bid, and he's an expert in analyzing Tesla fundamentals with his own long-term modeling. Welcome, Yashu. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Herbert. Always a good time whenever we talk.
So this positioning of yours is a great one. Few have said this, right? You believe that one of the reasons why Tesla's market cap is growing quite high, we'll explore that further, is partly because of Wall Street waking up that they are not only an AI expert, they bought the most, right? Their supercomputer is the largest in the world, but that they actually have real world AI as well. Let's get to that. That's a big, giant topic. But let's start first with this post just made by Elon, which is pretty significant, I would say. Techie Danny said, "How can you call yourself a tech influencer and not recognize how advanced Tesla software is?" Elon replied, "The brutal reality of the situation will hit like a tsunami towards the end of next year." Of course, this is Elon. He just changed his username to Kikius Maximus, having fun. But this is a pretty significant statement. How did you take this, Yashu?
Yeah, I think, well, obviously, the easy way to take this is Elon knows what's set up in terms of AI infrastructure for Tesla and what amount of training needs to be done. And he can just chart the path for training and say, well, at the end of next year, and by the way, I think as it stands right now, Tesla should have up to 100,000, I think, H100s with Cortex fully set up by end of the year. And pretty much we're here in 2025 now. So Elon can map the track to progress, and FSD version 13 was our first example of this just this month. With it being the first model fully trained on Cortex. So, it's a step change up. It's 5 times more compute. It's really charting a path towards, you're not there yet in terms of unsupervised, but you really map out the path that is required to get to that point. And with a tweet like that, I think Elon looks at this and kind of goes, this is kind of sort of the beginning of the end.
Yeah, I like what you said there. I do agree that it is about AI. Tech Danny was saying how advanced Tesla software is, right? And this is where Elon replied to that. The brutal reality of the situation will hit like tsunami towards the end of next year. So in many ways, he's also saying that people just don't realize it, how significant this will be. And so you're saying this software is AI, and it's going to be FSD. It's going to be the bot. It's going to be a lot of other things it might be, right? So tell me more about
Exactly.
what you think about that. Like, what exactly will we see by the end of next year?
Well, that's kind of the beauty of it, is that you can train whatever you want. And right now, Tesla is training for optimizing for driving and unsupervised. But tomorrow, it's going to be for the Optimus bot and being able to do real world functions in manufacturing, or go around and do different tasks for different companies for cost savings. The infrastructure is really the hard part. And that gets into kind of the thesis that I have about just market cap and Tesla's rise that we've seen recently, almost being in direct correlation with how many GPUs they've gotten set up in their AI data centers. XAI, of course, we know just closed a $6 billion round, and all of that is going to go towards NVIDIA, I think, H200s or B200s next year. And as it stands right now, if you look at Tesla, the infrastructure that they have, I mean, if you look at the list of market cap companies in the world, the top ones, and Tesla being one of the top ones, of course, every single one of those companies is investing billions of dollars in AI data centers, and Tesla's not going to fall behind on this. We know this, and I think the market looks at this and goes, Tesla deserves a premium for this because it's only the handful of 5 or 6 companies that are investing billions of dollars every single year into this sort of infrastructure, and the AI space is not going away. I mean, anyone that thinks it's just a fad or a .com bubble type of thing, this is bigger than the internet, is what experts, anyone in the field will tell you. And this is almost, it's like a horizontal enabling layer for businesses tomorrow. And in 2030 and beyond, we'll look at companies in 2024 and 2025 and go, the companies that invested billions of dollars in setting up these AI infrastructures are going to be the ones that win in the next 5 or 10 years to come.
Okay. And so your premise, which is very interesting, your thesis, and you're going to explain a little bit more of what this is. Tesla's market cap has grown in the last 6 months, and I'll show what that is. And you think that's because of the Wall Street recognizing the fact that they spent the most money in AI. Everybody's trying to get their hands over fists, but also, how NVIDIA, Jensen Huang said that it's superhuman of Elon to have implemented this. There was also news that came out that said that Elon was able to solve this quandary of being able to do anything bigger than 30,000 chips, and he made 100,000 chips, and they were struggling with that. And in fact, all the other experts from Microsoft and Meta and others, they said it's impossible. Like they said, we tried it, we can't do it. And then Elon did it. And you think maybe there's some recognition by Wall Street about that. So let's start with the market caps. This is what it is today. Tesla is now on the 8th position at $1.34 trillion. And that Apple, of course, has grown to 3.8 trillion. They're number one. NVIDIA, they've been switching spots. NVIDIA 3.3, or sorry, did they? Did NVIDIA already become the biggest?
Yeah, I think this might be the older one. Yeah, so I think Apple's, I see it. Oh, sorry, this is Canadian. But yes, NVIDIA's up
today.
there. Yeah, sorry, this is today. Yes.
Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon, every one of these, Meta, of course, they're all buying in chips. And of course, they need to be. And that's why NVIDIA came up this high so quickly. Apple's the one I think that is odd, right? They don't seem to have any kind of play. Their Apple Intelligence is not yet shown to be anything interesting or useful. We'll see what happens, but they are certainly at the top here. Tesla's here, 1.3. Now, they were in just as July, they were 11th. That's almost half the price of the market cap that they were, and they've driven up high. So explain why you think that this went up.
Yeah. So first of all, like Apple does buy TPUs, I believe, from Google or trains on it at least. Every one of those companies, right? Apple, NVIDIA, of course, we know the story there. Facebook, Amazon. These are either hyperscalers or people that are hyperscaling into creating AI data infrastructure. Now, I think there's a degree of FOMO that goes around. And the story that you told just now about Jensen talking about 19 days for the entire supercluster to be built out, where he said on average, like that's like a 1-year job. I think word gets around in the community pretty fast around that sort of stuff. It's something like that's an incredible feat. Like 19, like, and it's been talked about a lot. I don't want to harp on it too much, but just cement that in your brain. What takes every other company a year to do, it took Elon and XAI, in this case, not Tesla, 19 days to do. And you can bet your bottom dollar that there's shared intelligence between XAI and Tesla, and in terms of engineers, employees, obviously Elon. We know this much, that the knowledge passing through of other companies that Elon has comes to Tesla at the end of the day. And I think if you look at the market caps of the companies, right, and you just kind of go down the list, you go, okay, 3.5 trillion, 3 trillion, 2 trillion. Like Tesla was kind of the outstanding company in that list where 6 months ago, if you looked at the list, you'd be like, well, Tesla's investing, like Facebook, for example. I think Facebook invested 100,000 H100s, right? It's like $10 billion or whatever it is a year in training Llama 4. If you look at what Tesla is doing, pretty comparable. They're going to be up to 100,000 by the end of, but actually now they pretty much are with Cortex. And if you look at the market caps, in terms of FOMO, I think there's a large degree of this on Wall Street where they go, okay, well, we missed out on NVIDIA's big run. Obviously, they're the enabling company for all of this sort of infrastructure. But then if you look at the companies that are going to win, are they going to be the ones that are training on AI? And is it Facebook? Is it Google? Amazon? All these companies are pretty richly valuated. I mean, of course, 2 trillion, 3 trillion. And Tesla was kind of the odd outlier for a little bit, $600 billion or 700, whatever it was pre-election. And you kind of looked at it and you go, well, they're investing just as much. You could argue, if not more, if you kind of couple in XAI and the learnings there and the potential for them to collab. Well, it's kind of a FOMO play a little bit for AI, right? You can bucket in Tesla if you don't know anything about Tesla and you're just on Wall Street and you're looking at AI as the next play, AI as the next play, you can kind of look at Tesla and go, well, they're building up their AI infrastructure just as heavily, if not heavier, than a lot of these companies. Not to mention, they're actually trying to build out Dojo and their internal chips to, pseudo basic sort of level of custom chips and custom solutions in house. Why shouldn't this get some sort of a premium on the market? Whereas, like, if you look at the bottom companies, like, what multiple should they deserve for not investing in AI? So I think there's a degree of future-proofing investors on Wall Street by just hand over fist investing into AI plays just for the sake of making sure that you have exposure and you don't miss out on a run that NVIDIA has had over the last 2 years.
Okay, well, I've got several questions. The first one, though, let's hit that for out of the bat. Almost everybody would say that the reason why Tesla stock has doubled in the last since November, if you map it, it's November 5th, election happened, it's all Trump, regulation, and it's autonomy. People are now starting to say, yes, autonomy is an excuse, but basically, they don't say AI, they don't say robots, they don't really say anything about that. But you believe that this is one of the reasons. Can you explain the difference between most people who say it's all Trump? His first buddy relationship with Trump is the reason why it's rising.
And to be fair, I am on that to a degree. I think both things can be true here. I've said, when if Trump would win, we're going to see a rise in Tesla stock. But the degree that we've seen, I think multiple things are true here. I think there's a degree of risk off for Tesla all of a sudden, right? If you own Tesla pre-election, there's no questioning that there's a degree of geopolitical risk with Elon and the administration. Whether it's opening up cases on Tesla or Elon, there's a degree of lawfare that was happening towards Elon and his companies, right? I think this much is well known. When Trump wins, you kind of unlock that and you get risk off there in terms of owning Tesla. But then you also get this opening up of possibilities under Trump. For example, we've seen NHTSA finally say, hey, they're going to launch a framework for autonomous driving. We've seen the FTC chair change that to be more pro-business. There's going to be certain aspects that are really going to be favorable for Tesla in the AI world since Trump's got elected. And of course, all those companies have run as well, but nowhere near to the degree of Tesla. So I think there is a degree of, for sure, unlocking with the new administration, and now all of a sudden you're being able to be risk on with Tesla in your investment. But then also in terms of the potentiality of the new administration, I think that unlocks all of the goodness for Tesla for probably a decade to come.
I think you've changed my mind because I was not saying this, and now that I think it a lot more through, it's hard for me to AI is the game. Everybody, NVIDIA is the main reason why the market is going crazy. They're showing that NVIDIA chips were being bought as actually implementing and changing all companies' progression. Everybody knows AI is the game for next year. And so why would you not still refuse to believe that Tesla is not gaining some share jump because of that? And I like what you said, because Tesla was, lower price than the others. That would be the right price. So I like that. Tell me more about Dojo, right? Because when he said, right, that 2025, the end of 2025, there's a tsunami that people are not realizing. And one of them is Dojo. The other one is AI5 chips coming out, which is, the best inference compute chip that's out there, way better than NVIDIA's. No one is better than Tesla's inference. You can talk about that. And you shared this, which is a reminder of what happened last year, or second half of 6 months ago. And this was 6 months ago, right? Tesla expects their AI training compute capacity to hit nearly 90,000 H100 equivalent GPUs by the end of the year. And that's where we're at. So they released this table, and you can see how it just jumped here in 2024 from 15,000 to 90,000. And they were projecting this, and they hit it. This is where they are right now, if not even higher. This is Tesla. This is not XAI, who's already working on their 200,000. And then also, some people are saying that Tesla could actually make use of the XAI chips that they're using. So tell me more about those questions.
Yeah. So, I mean, on that note, November 15th was the day that it was hitting the wire, saying that Tesla is actually going to train FSD with some collaboration on XAI. And November 15th, of course, correlation doesn't equal causation. But if you look at the move that Tesla's had since that news has come out, it's quite big. Now, of course, I'm not saying that's all attributable to that, but there's a degree of XCI is a strategic benefit to Tesla to be able to garner more chips, whether it's purchasing power, whether it's shared compute, shared intelligence. This is what allows Tesla to lead. Now, if you look at the list of AI companies, if you want to call it quote unquote, right, out there, Tesla is really the only one focused on real world AI. If you talk about hyperscalers like AWS or Google's cloud, these are digital AI companies that are trying to do VR, AR through Facebook, or to have shared compute online through AI training. But Tesla is really the only one focused on real world use cases. Autonomous driving is a huge one, of course. Bots another big one, being able to train that. And if you look at mapping this out for the next 10 years, I mean, someone replied to my tweet this morning on talking about this and saying, well, NVIDIA's focused on bots and stuff, maybe to a small degree, but no one is focused on scaling real world AI to the degree that Tesla is right now. On Dojo and on AI training, remember there's training and then there's inference, right? And for training, I mean, or training, we all know Tesla, like NVIDIA is killing the game there. Dojo may help, of course, but Dojo is kind of a backup for now, and they could scale up to end of 2025 and make it meaningful. Actually, even a hot take, I think, is Dojo could even be spun up as a chip business for other auto manufacturers. If Tesla didn't want to license FSD for whatever reason, they could sell their Dojo chips as a specific training chip to other auto manufacturers. But if you look at inference, right, Tesla's models, they're very dense. Like, these are videos that are being compressed, and then they're turning into driving commands at the end of the day. And so being able to take all of that and then operate it, I think, on a 300-watt computer or whatever, and whatever memory they have, small little memory on the car itself, it is a huge problem for a lot of auto manufacturers. And it's a challenge, let's be honest. It's not easy. So what Tesla is solving for is not like, hey, let's just spin up an AWS type of business with Dojo and let other companies do AI training on our infrastructure. No, they're trying to train on these video models, compress them down, train them, turn them into driving commands, and then inference them onto small little chips on your computer, or on our computer, aka car. And so one day that'll turn into the bot. Today, that's the car. The possibilities are really kind of endless here.
Oh yeah, actually, it's all coming together now, right? You're painting a really good picture. So number one, Tesla has the largest supercomputer in the world. They've got close to 100,000 NVIDIA chips now. I think we're seeing that the 6 fans are starting to turn on in the Tesla Cortex. They're using XAIs. They're heading to 200,000, and then they're going to be B200. So if we carry it over, where are we going to be the last half of this year, 2025? Where are we going to be? And so that you've got Dojo coming online, and so that could be just more chips, right, and cheaper margin wise, more compute that Tesla can do. So they're already so far ahead in compute. No one's going to be able to catch them anymore because of how quickly they can implement and create superclusters. But now they've got their own chip. Then they've got AI5, which is a leap in inference. They're already the leader in inference. I don't think anybody's challenging them. Inference is how quickly, efficient, and how speed that it can, as how small the chip can be at the device level, right? The car or the bot, how quickly. And they need to make millions of those. And Tesla's doing it. They've got that. I think, right? NVIDIA and Jensen has said that inference is going to be 1 billion times larger than what it is now. Like, it's going to be the thing. They're trying to get into it, but Tesla's leading. Like, it's going to eclipse what you're seeing now with NVIDIA because of the training chips. Eventually, it's going to be the inference chips that matter more. That's what he's saying. And so that's coming online, AI5. And so if Elon can see AI5 coming in the second half of next year, and like you said at the very beginning, the way he set it up was he can already see that the compute and the data that they've got with all the cars and the bots is going to just accelerate real world AI with real dollars. So it's all coming. That's what's happening.
Yes.
Can you speak a little bit more to that? Yeah.
Yeah, and what we've learned from this is companies that operate in singular dimensions in terms of competition, like they're the only company doing this sort of stuff, garner a massive premium. There is no second to Tesla, right, in public markets on training on driving data and turning that into FSD. So when you have no competition, you're the only play in town. And so you get a premium for that. And this is where the debate of valuation comes in. Well, if you DCF and what does it equal? Yes, we can
Yeah.
talk about that. Investments are done on NPV, net present value of future cash flows, but there's undoubtedly an increase in premium, a multiple, if you want to call it, on companies that operate in their own league, and that's where Tesla is currently. Now, of course, like another thing to talk about here is, the training that Tesla is doing on their superclusters right now. One day, that same infrastructure, those same chips will be then used to inference on, right? Because as you get better chips and you train on better chips, well, where do those old chips go? Well, you can inference on them. And so there's a degree of washing out in a cycle here that can happen. If you talk about XAI and them getting B200s next year, once they're done training on that, maybe they'll sell those over to Tesla. There's a degree of supply chain here as well.
Yeah, that was a mind-blowing thing to me that I had heard for the first time with talking to Brian Wang. And it sounds like other people are saying the same thing, that if XAI is already now headed into their 200th H100s, but they're going to start implementing B200s by March, which is like several months from now, those H100s are already being used by Tesla's FSD, and then they can actually just even use more of it. Like basically, like you said earlier, like Tesla's going to work very closely with XAI, and they don't even need to take them and implement them in Tesla's headquarters. They can just use them.
Yeah, I'm not sure entirely how they would train on it in Memphis, but yes, there's the possibilities are here, and then also if you talk about XAI and it's kind of like OpenAI. Microsoft owns OpenAI technically, and Microsoft gets a premium for that. But if you kind of look into the partnership, it's not as tried and true as you might think it is. And there's a degree of opt-out once AGI is there anyways. But Microsoft, nevertheless, gets this kind of lift up, right? And deservedly so. OpenAI is a company that is killing it at the moment. But if you look at, who the number one person in the world who's worried about XAI is Sam Altman. He's come out and said, he's like, I think we're worried that, they're going to surpass us in compute very soon. And one thing we know about Elon is he doesn't like to be second, right? This is not in his blood. It's not in his DNA. And the rapid scale of XAI, of course, I think Grok today actually is a lot better than it has been in the last few months. It's getting better.
It's fantastic. Yeah.
And Grok 3 is going to be coming out, and obviously Grok 4, 5, so on and so forth. Being able to then partner with, and I think I've flipped on this. I've been publicly wrong. I will say this right now. I've said from the start last year, I was like, I don't see the benefit for Tesla to invest in XAI. And I made my case for, I said, I don't see the benefit for it, but I think I'm going to say I was completely wrong on that. I think Tesla should take a hard look at XAI there. I'm not sure the legalities there. That aside, I think it's like OpenAI, Microsoft, XAI, Tesla.
That's so, again, back to what he's saying, the second half of next year is going to blow everybody's mind. Why hasn't Tesla implemented Grok into its cars or bots yet? Any guesses there?
I don't think it's ready yet, because what makes OpenAI's ChatGPT really good for me is the advanced voice feature. Grok will be coming out with a voice feature very soon, and by the time maybe you watch this, it's already even out for the viewers. But as it stands right now, it's not to a point, I think, where they're gonna want it, because the one use case in a Tesla is the voice. If anyone here drives a Tesla, they know that the voice commands are like Siri +1, right? They're a little bit better than Siri because Siri sucks, but they're not that much better than Siri. Like they half the time they don't understand what I'm saying. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But I think what Tesla wants to do eventually is implement Grok within that for sure. That's going to happen.
Yeah, my guess is that like it's going to be trivial if you wanted to ask Grok questions verbally on the car and have it answer, but that's not the goal, right? The goal is to control the car, to say things that the car will then act on. And I think it's going to come and it's going to blow everybody away. It's going to be much better than that. And of course, like you said, I think it's also they haven't figured out the relationship between Tesla and XAI too, and they need to work that out. So I'm obviously very disappointed that the new $6 billion funding XAI has announced did not involve Tesla. Could have been the perfect time. So I'm very concerned about that. But there's going to be a relationship. So
and on that note, on the funding note, how funny is it that NVIDIA gets to invest, like
and AMD.
within XAI? NMD. So I mean, they're eating their own dog food there a little bit. You know, NVIDIA is getting this huge increase in market cap from selling these chips, and then they're using the increase in market cap and cash to be able to fund companies to continue to buy chips. And there's like this flywheel effect that's going to go on with with AI training for the next 5 or
Yeah,
10 years
what do you
at
think
least.
about that? Because this is a theory I've been playing with. You got OpenAI. How do they make money? Pay me $200 a month. Pay me $20 a month to the consumer. They're gonna
Mm-hmm.
integrate it to Microsoft Word, and they can get bump in those sales, subscription sales, and so forth. That's their business model so far. Right now, they can completely reinvent legal lawyers and make money there. Right. So I'm not saying it's small. It could be huge. But what about Tesla? Well, Grok, XAI, when they spend the billions to create their supercomputer, they're not just an LLM. In fact, they might give it away for free. That's not their business model. Their business model is to sell it to Tesla, who's going to implement in cars, who's going to implement in bots, and that revenue, which is sky high, recurring subscription revenue, you call it real world, you know, they call it artificial general robotics, not just artificial general intelligence, where you can actually make real money. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that is going to fund Grok and XAI. You know,
Yeah,
that's the difference. Do you agree with that
yeah,
thinking? That's the
that's
totally
great thinking.
different approach.
Yeah, no, that's a great line of thinking. Yeah, because ChatGPT, at the end of the day, if you look at every one of those companies that are scaling up AI, you kind of ask yourself the question of what is it that they're going to be selling with the AI that's going to even justify the billions that they're spending on this infrastructure. And the easy answer is hyperscalers are going to focus on cloud compute
Yeah.
and allowing AI training for other businesses. That's one aspect of it. But in terms of product, like Facebook is maybe one where Meta is going to focus on Llama and then being able to integrate that with their headsets. But that's kind of fuzzy, and you don't really know exactly what that means in terms of bottom line just yet. Like NVIDIA is obviously the use cases there. They're just going to scale their data center business. But you're right. Tesla is the only one where you look at the real world aspect to the revenue and you can map it out, even though Wall Street won't. You can map it out, right?
Yeah.
And you can go,
Yeah.
well, if they scale, like hypothetically, if they scale to 500,000, like something nuts, or a million is the goal, right? For XCI, to a million B200s, like Blackwells or or Hoppers, I don't know, whatever it is, like let's say an infinite amount of compute. Uh, Now you can train within, like, it's very fast, so it's just a capital business, and at the end of the day you can track the path of this. And I think if you're internal on Tesla, and that tweet, going back to what Elon said, you're just sitting down, you're going, so we've increased compute by this much, and this is how many miles per intervention we've improved. If we scale to this much, this is what we'll do. Once we invest into this much and this much is online, we'll be here and we'll be live. And so you're
Yeah.
right in saying that Grok is going to be the aspect of that as well. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. The other thing is that the other companies have no data. They've maxed out their data. Like all of the world's video that's on YouTube, all the world's text can fit in a small 1 foot by 1 foot computer. That's all they need to be able to
Yeah.
hold that data. But if you then go from 100,000 H100s to B200s to 1 million B200s to the next one, great. What are you going to train on that? Where's that data? Well, Tesla has not only the 8 million cars,
Yeah.
and now they can feed all of that data that they couldn't, all that video, they can do that now. But then they're going to roll out the bots. And Elon called it like infinity of scale. Like it's like you're gonna wherever the bot looks, that is video, that is data that it can capture and do training on and so forth. So
Yeah.
no other company has any data at all.
Yes. Yes. And what more importantly, everyone is in the business of LLMs today. And what we have to realize with Tesla is the real world AI that you're talking about, the video and the compression into these learning models, they have a vastly like larger context size than any other large language model training going on right now. Meaning Tesla has a specific advantage in training these types of AIs. And moreover than that, the Dojo that you've highlighted, that you talked about a couple seconds ago, so Dojo is going to be specifically a use case for training on video, and the way that Tesla needs it. I don't know. I mean, of course, you can get GPUs and you can use them as general purpose and then train on them, of course. But it's going to be way more efficient to use something that is specifically made for this type of video training. And
Video
Tesla
training, yeah.
is strategically and secretly trying to scale this side of their business, knowing that everyone's focused on LLMs today. But in 5 years, people will be focused on more of the real world aspect of training on something like video. And that's what Dojo comes in for.
Isn't it incredible, the timing though, that all of this is happening at the same time? Tesla is now able to
Yeah.
scale the creation of thousands of bots. They already proven that neural nets for full self-driving is improving at an exponential rate. They've their Dojo took them years and years and years. Now they're finally, getting that second wave of actually being able to build it outright. They solved the problem of creating from 30,000 to 100,000. And so now they're, did you see that video that XAI just dropped yesterday where they showed the super cooling capabilities that they have? It's all perfectly timed. If one of those was off, right, the ability to manufacture bots at scale, or everybody assumed at first that it was AI that's going to be the bottleneck, and turned out that was a leap faster than everything else. It's all coming together.
Yeah.
And that's why he's so bullish about next year.
Yeah. Next year I think, of course, it's exciting, but let's not lose the forest for the trees, because this is just the ramp on the exponential power that Tesla is going to have with real world AI coming up. Next year, obviously, is going to be very exciting for the next 12 months. And it's going to be obvious, like Elon says. But what really matters is the next 5 or 10 years, right? Because that's when bot comes into the picture. That's when there's meaningful revenue changes into Tesla. And that could be next year with unsupervised, of course. I think piloting that, and we've talked about that on previous episodes. But, that's just a tiny percentage of what Tesla is going to do in the next decade. And of course, like, this matters. All this hinges on execution. But if Tesla and Elon have shown us anything, it's that execution is what they specialize in. And that's what they're world class in. For example, the 19 days to set up the super cluster versus a year. Of course, it's not going to be easy, but the path is there. And I think that's why when you look at the market cap and the jump in market cap since Trump, like, now everything is kind of America first, gung ho for innovation. Like, there seems like there's this renaissance for AI, tech, and business fortitude that there wasn't for the last little bit. And maybe that's just excitement and like momentum for now. But there's been a shift in kind of mentality for tech businesses in the last, call it month and a half since the election, where there's a new FTC chair, there's a new SEC chair. There's like, we got to focus on gung ho. Let's ramp any sort of tech that we have massively, and let's outgrow ourselves out of the way, out of our debt, out of all the problems that we have. And I think that's the mentality that America was built on.
So regulation. I want to get back. I want to ask you about the other things, right? You need the compute, you need the right compute, you need Dojo, you need NVIDIA chips, you need the inference chips, then you need the warehouse data centers, then you need the energy, and we'll talk about that. And so we'll get there, but I want to get back to the competition. So you kind of briefly talked about it, and I want you to explain a bit more. You posted this morning. You said, many don't understand Tesla is the only real world AI play there is in the market, right? So Meta, Amazon, Google, Apple are all great companies scaling AI clusters, but none are focused on real world use cases. Tesla deservedly gets a premium in valuation for this. And somebody said this, I think you're wrong in this. Every company's working on real world use cases. NVIDIA's into robotics. Meta's doing big things with Palantir, lots of AI code editors. So what's your explanation? What was your reply to this comment here?
Yeah, actually, do you have my reply by any chance on this one?
Let's see.
It's okay if you don't. I'll rehash it. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, so I said, none at meaningful scale, at least not yet. NVIDIA will be focused on scaling AI data centers for years to come.
Right.
Meta's focused on augmented reality, virtual reality space with Llama. Now, look, there's not to say, and maybe I'm being hyperbolic by saying it's the only company, but it's really the only company focused on it as their main business. Yeah, NVIDIA might toy with robotics and they launched their ChatGPT competitor and all this sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, their business, the majority of their revenue and what they want to scale is selling more chips, right? And the infrastructure and the network and all that sort of stuff behind it. Meta, same thing, augmented reality, virtuality headsets. Google, hyperscaler with Amazon and being able to, do AWS type businesses to grow this compute level out. Tesla is the only one that's going, okay, let's take all this data, let's train on it. And then after we train on all this data, let's sell it as a real in-person, like that doesn't exist anymore in tech, right? Because everything's online, in-person, real world AI use case. And that's driving, that's bots. And so I think, again, the reason why Tesla gets a premium for this, I think, in the market is because if you're trying to play the AI game and you don't want to play it specifically only digitally, and you want something in like a physical space to matter, Tesla is really the only company that's going to be focusing on that for a long time, at least in the public company sphere in terms of the top market cap companies out there. There could be some micro caps and stuff that I'm missing out on. But in terms of being a big dog and being focused on that and having all resources really going towards gung-ho, towards real world AI, Tesla is the only company there.
Yeah, I agree with you. Microsoft, Google, Alphabet, Amazon, I'm not confident. They will all use AI to improve their businesses, no doubt. But they're not going to beat Tesla in robotics, and they're not going to beat them in autonomy. And even Jensen Huang has said that those two are actually the biggest real world use cases that you can have the most money made out of. He's already confirmed that that's the case. Now, but I think NVIDIA, let's discuss this a little bit. Curious to see what you think about it, because NVIDIA has big dreams. Okay, they're going beyond just selling the chips, right? They have a platform called Isaac. They've partnered with at least 11 humanoid bot companies, and they give them training software, simulation software, and they're trying to say, okay, well, if all of you guys create the hardware and get that video that we need, we'll get that data, and we'll provide the chips, and we'll provide the training. And we've got a partnership with OpenAI to try to help all of you. You know what I mean? Like this network of partners to try to copy what Tesla is able to do. I think NVIDIA may be able to do this, but what's your thinking on that?
I mean, interesting point. I think NVIDIA is focused on being able to, like, what NVIDIA is limited by is the pool of people that can spend billions of dollars on these chips for years to come. And I think what they're focused on is enabling the next Tesla, the next big company, the next XAI, to be able to get big enough to attract funding, to be able to buy chips from them in the next 5 or 10 years. And I think that's what they're focused on, and the ability to grow the market. And they know that, there's only a handful of companies that can afford these level of GPUs that are needed, right? Like if me and you wanted to start a robotics company, like, where are we going to get funding from? Who's going to want to fund us to the tune of $6 billion in our first round? Elon, yeah, exactly. And Elon is a one of one in terms of doing that. And I think they look at the business, they go, okay, well, of course it's great. I think Amazon and Google make up, or Amazon and Facebook might make up like 40% of all of their AI data center revenue, NVIDIA's. And so they look at that and go, okay, well, obviously that's a little bit risky for the next, like, are they going to commit in 2035? Are they still buying this many level of chips, if not more? Maybe, yeah. I mean, hopefully, but they want to be able to diversify. And I think that's what they're focused on through the lens of robotics. Of course, I wish them well, and I wish that there's a next competitor up. I always have thought that, there would be no Apple if there was no Samsung. You need that kind of clash of competitors in a space to get to world-class levels. Luckily, Elon kind of does it himself a little bit and does infighting and, has these sort of, XAI and Tesla might be a good example of being able to fight for who's better in terms of setting up these clusters for years to come. But yeah, I mean, new pool of entrants for sure. I hope there is, but that's an argument to be had, I think, perhaps.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, you got to be large. You got to be one of the big, large companies, and it's about speed. So Tesla's already proven, or XAI, that they can move fast, and they have every piece that you need, right? So let's just go through every piece that you need, including the data centers, the energy, what's going to power all these data centers. Do you know much about that?
That one less so, but what you highlight is so important. Like, you can't just set one of these up in the middle of nowhere. Like, the amount of energy that you need to power these clusters is just massive. And of course, Memphis, like, I know in Buffalo, they have their Dojo plant set up. Yes, it's definitely a question, and that brings into like maybe China, right? But the problem with China, of course, is you can't import that many chips into China, so probably not China. So it opens up all these questions of like it's someone once described being able to set up one of these superclusters. It's like a symphony of 45 different elements coming together, and to be able to work together in a cohesive way. And to be able to work on what Tesla is doing, I think is just world class. But energy is a big problem that they're going to have. But hey, you know what? They just launched their Shanghai Megapack factory, so maybe they can get some help from there.
I mean, Amazon built their data center right on top of a nuclear power plant, right? Tesla's got theirs right in front of Niagara Falls. So they all need all sorts of energy, as much energy as possible. And so anybody who can make megapacks as storage of that energy is going to be, very important. And Elon himself has said that that is the rate that's going to be the bottleneck in a few years. It's going to become it. So again, it's just interesting. It's all coming
Yes,
together.
it's all coming
Mhm.
together. And by the way, on FSD 13, I think we can tie even the bow on this, because all of this matters because we get new models like FSD 13, which is not perfect off the bat here, but it's the first version that we have that's fully trained on Cortex on their new supercluster, and it's 5 times more compute, and being able to grow into that is a direct example of what can happen when you start scaling up
That's a good
AI
point.
training the way they have.
Yeah, I obviously the big debate on X right now with some Tesla bulls against other Tesla bulls, or even just Tesla skeptics, is that do you not know that Tesla's nowhere near being able to roll out a self-driving car because they need to have 100 times in whatever 99.999%. You can't have one intervention per year, and I just can't see them getting there. Is what they'll say, and
Mm-hmm.
all you well, one way to see them getting there is: do you think that the compute is going to exponentially grow? If the compute is going to exponentially grow, is the data going to exponentially grow? If both of those can exponentially grow, why do you then not think that the interventions per mile is not going to exponentially reduce too? That's what they've been showing. It's already gone 1,000 times since last year, 1,000 times. So
Yeah. So a couple of things on this. One, there's this amazing website that tracks FSD by our like regular people coming in and being able to put input data on it, on interventions and how it's driving and all this sort of stuff. The issue with that is not, I don't have a gripe with it at all. I think it's great, and I think the person that sets it up is awesome. The problem is selection bias. Statistically speaking, you can't control, and this is not the website's fault, you can't control who is going to submit the data and the accuracy of it. You can have different statistical models that get out outliers and stuff, but statistically speaking, you can't do anything on selection bias of the participants. So you might have a degree of bias one way or another. I'm not going to say which way, but you can make your own argument there that the data there that's showing interventions per mile is just not fully accurate. But I will say though, in consensus, Tesla needs to release more data for us to be able to gauge this. I think we all agree that we would love for Tesla to give us concrete data. Elon here and there gives us, well, this model will have 3 times less miles per disengagement. But it's hard to quantify. There's no chart that Tesla's released to be like, this is the miles per disengagement on this version, that version, whatever it might be. The other thing on this is, and I think people just miss this completely, is that Tesla can pull a few stops to probably remove a large percentage of their disengagements. And what I mean by that is, number one, navigation. If navigation is a large pool of my disengagements, Tesla turning here when I prefer to turn at the next block because I think it's better, or Tesla changing lanes when it doesn't need to. Certain things like that are not safety critical, but at the end of the day, they ruin my discomfort of driving with FSD, so I disengage, right? Number two, they can probably stop turning or choosing paths that have high disengagement rates. Unprotected lefts from here, or this path has a large disengagement percentage. Tesla can see all of this data on the back end. They're probably wanting to err on the side of going that way at the moment because they want to train better on it, ironically. But when they
exactly,
when they do unsupervised one
exactly.
day, they
Yeah.
can do the opposite. And then I think the last thing here is that people are forgetting that just how every auto company that does autonomous there's probably going to be remote drivers for the edge case scenarios to start with. Elon pretty much confirmed that much in an earnings call last year when he said, when someone, or no, it was the shareholder meeting, and someone asked him, he said, well, I guess potentially when we launch, yeah, we'll probably have some sort. He was very hesitant on agreeing to it because he doesn't want to signal to his engineers that they have a way out. But let's be honest, if they have a few remote drivers for the edge case scenarios, it's not the end of the world at all.
No.
So just by doing the tail end there of work and reformatting maybe some of the navigation, ask yourself the question of how can Tesla then be supervised or unsupervised? Moreover, why don't they just have pickup spots and drop up spots to begin with, so then they can pretty much have a 99.9% confidence rating? So these are the stops that Tesla might be working on right now, but they could pull out in the next few months, and then you turn your whole entire model upside down, right?
That's it is such a good point. It's such a good point. Right now, they're training it, and so they want every condition: snow, fog. They want it to be in every location, end to end, any part of the world. Basically, there's nothing that stops you from taking a Tesla, even in unmarked, parks. You can drive it in a park with no roads in it. But if they wanted to, they can stick with just perfectly well defined roads and markings. I love that point quite a bit. And they did share a metric. The one metric that they are shooting for is that by the middle of next year, they think that they're going to be safer than a human. They're safer than an average human. So that is a critical disengagement metric. Then you can already look up and know exactly what that means, that they're going to get there. I think that's what it is. I mean, it's like there's no point sharing the data today when you're optimizing for training, which is everything. You want those disengagements. The more disengagements, the better.
Yeah, well,
it's a very good point, Yashu.
And it's also a blended metric, right? What is it, like whatever miles per disengagement you want to call it nationally? Like that would be a blended metric. Like, would that include me disengaging in my parking lot because I'm messing around and I just want to I want to play with it? Would that include rural, like farm roads, for example? So you kind of get to a point where, like, to your point, it's a little bit of a fuzzy metric anyways. So why release it? Of course, we would love to see it as Tesla investors and Tesla enthusiasts. We would love to see that metric, but the question is, like, let's say if it's 500 miles per disengagement or whatever. Is it maybe 5,000 in San Francisco downtown? Like, is it, and is certain cities already really good? You can't break that out fully at the moment.
Yeah, the co-CEO of Waymo said, she was interviewed, and she said that we purposely started at grid cities, so that it's easier to launch, and that's pretty mapped out. It's pretty straightforward. There's nothing for it to learn. It already knows every street, every cross. It knows to stop at this time. Doesn't even have to read anything. It just knows that's what you can code it in, basically. And they have a remote driver for every 2 to 4 miles. That's what Cruise discovered. And I have no reason to believe that Waymo is any better than that. So people are like going, look at them, it's driverless. It's not driverless. There's remote drivers. It could very well be 1-to-1. Every car has one remote driver.
Yeah, I mean, no way to confirm that.
Well, you know how you do? You look at the price. You look at why they're spending close to $3 billion last year, $2 billion, this year, 2024. Why? Where's that money going to? Remote drivers. Simple as that.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about that is Sundar Pichai, CEO of Google, literally called Tesla the leader in autonomous, right? Travis, the founder of Uber, also just I was watching the video and I posted on X the other day, but the video is about a month old.
It's October, dude.
Yeah, it's October. I was watching it yesterday, so I thought I'd post it. But he even said, just like in the last few months, he said, well, Elon's already got driverless covered. So the question you have to ask yourself, if you're a bear on this, is why is it that the CEO of Google, the founder of Uber, are saying that Elon's got this in the bag when, let's say, Waymo should be running away with this? Well, because exactly what you said, they can see the inside and they can see how many actual driverless cars there are. And to be fair, the one thing I'll give to everyone on the Waymo side, because I can already see the comments about Waymo coming in, is that it is cool, though, that you can have remote driver Ubers. Like, there's a degree of maybe, in the interim, there's a degree of, okay, well, you don't need to have a physical person there. That's kind of a cool thing, right? A different use case, because when robotaxi comes out, it's just going to be meaningless and the cost savings are just going to be ridiculous. But in the interim, I think it's kind of a cool concept that that shouldn't be completely shut down, but the cost savings are not there. It's just different, totally different economies of scale.
All right, let's go back to your original premise. You said that you believe that part of the reason why the market cap for Tesla has doubled since 6 months ago is because they are the only company that has been, or they're one of the only companies buying hands over fist these GPUs, and Wall Street's realizing that they are one of the only real world AIs. That goes against what most people are saying. How much of the market cap is that? And then how much will it still grow in the next year once it really becomes more and more, the tsunami of, like, that's what Elon's comment was that they don't even realize what's about to come by next year.
Yeah, that's a good question, and I'd have to do more digging. But if $1.5 trillion, it's actually way less now. But let's say it was $1.5 trillion at all-time highs at the 480 level, 490 level for Tesla.
Right.
You could argue half of that is on AI potential. Really, I mean, at the end of the day, and the crazy part of that is, I'm not saying that Trump didn't matter, because it did, and quite vocally so. But all it really did was unlock the value that Tesla had for a long time. You could say Tesla stock was depressed lower than it should have been for a long time because of geopolitical risk, because of administrational risk or lawfare. That compensation case is still not sorted out. So there's certain aspects that were just depressed for a long time. And just like if you coil a spring and you keep it down and you pop it up, it's going to go way past what it needs to for the time being as well. And we've seen that now with Tesla coming down. Sorry, my headphones off. So it's exciting times, but maybe half of that. But in the next 10 years, I mean, I don't see this market letting down at all, like this AI market. I think more people are going to awaken to the potentiality of AI. That doesn't mean it's going to be a straight line up and to the right. But everyone, I think, in 2030 and beyond is going to look at any company that doesn't do AI as an old school Nokia, BlackBerry type of company. And you have to do some sort of AI. And that's not to say it's going to be a trivial use case of AI. You have to do a real world, a real revenue generating use case of your AI. And to be fair, the majority of companies on the market cap list that you showed earlier, a lot of them are just doing it as cost savings at the time being, other than a few.
Well, this is a great thesis. Again, you've convinced me. I do agree. I wouldn't have said it, but now I agree that there has to be and some AI, premium that was applied to Tesla. And if anything, everybody agrees that it was a regulation has been removed for robotaxi, and that's what they're saying. Okay, autonomy is now AI is on its way for Tesla. Anyways, what matters is what happens from now on, and they're going to continue buying hundreds of thousands of GPUs. They're going to implement as fast as they can. They're going to implement. They're going to build 1,000 bots. They're going to have robotaxi being tested in the streets. And so at this point, from now on, you betcha, the market's going to go follow the compute, and they can completely connect the compute to progress in these real world business models. And then that turns into revenue. And then at that point, it's just proof.
And Tesla will be chastised for this for a while, I still think, where they're going to be investing a lot of cash into these data centers. And just like Amazon in 2014, 2015, when people would ask them, like, you have no profit, what are you doing? Like, well, you're investing all this money in CapEx. I think the same questions, if they haven't been asked already, will be asked of Tesla of, like, what are you actually doing? You're spending all this money. You haven't launched unsupervised just yet. The bots are not even out at scale yet, and they're going to be chastised in the same way that I think Amazon was for what they did with their data, with their infrastructure. But eventually, it'll pay off, and I think Elon sees the long-term vision on that for sure.
Love it. Great thesis, great information. Appreciate you, Yashu. Check out his YouTube channel and his X channel at his X is Hey It's Yashu, and his YouTube is Hit That Bid. You do it all, right? You not only do the long-term fundamental, you do fundamentals, but you also do options, and you play the market on the. You have this 1 hour at the 1 o'clock, right? You have the what do you call it?
The power hour sometimes, yes, we have live streams that go on. Yeah.
Your
Those are
power
always
hour live
fun.
streams.
Yeah,
Fun, yeah.
yeah.
Fantastic at
I
that.
mean, not as fun on a day like today, but of course, when Tesla's hitting all-time highs, it's a little bit more fun.
Thank you, Yashu. See everybody.
All right,
Bye-bye.
take care.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.